All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deanne D. Matthews, and I am the author of Black, White, and Red All Over, a gritty, current, clean Christian mystery. And on the day that I record this is Good Friday, the Capitol is shut down again because everything old remains new again. A lot of the things that are current about this book and about the trouble that we're having in this country continue to recur. And so, whereas this book takes place in 2019, many of you will find it still just as current. The issues discussed today, April the 2nd, I guess someone felt like they had missed their national holiday on April 1st and decided to act a fool today. Some of you will find this just as current today as you did in 2019. Speaking of foolishness, our April subject is two things. You have April Fool's Day on one hand and you have Easter on the other. So in this month's readings from Black, White, and Red All Over, we will be discussing the fools of Black, White, and Red All Over, and we'll also be discussing Christianity in America as part of Black, White, and Red All Over. Our ancestors had a song called Have You Got Good Religion? It's important to have good religion. You can have bad religion too. And all of it is right here. All right. But today, before we go there, we need to define terms. It's very easy. Mr. T, I pity the fool. Okay, well, that's a word that's thrown around a lot. And then you deal with April Fool's Day. It's basically a day to crack jokes and to fool people. So there's several definitions. We need to define terms in terms of how we will see it in this book so we can understand a couple of things. And I need to lay out a couple of things about the foolishness that is destroying this nation. So first we're going to do denotation. And today, because I am using a slightly different format so I can actually show you a couple things as we go. Let me show you this. Here we go. We want to go with denotation first. If you go to Google Dictionary, you will find definition, noun, verb, and adjectives. Here you have fool, noun, a person who acts unwisely or imprudently, a silly person. We often think of fool on April Fool's Day as to trick or deceive someone. He fooled nightclub managers into believing he was a successful businessman. And an adjective, foolish or silly. Sunday school teacher edit, that darn fool waiter. Okay, denotation. But notice as we start this that fool is not quite the same thing as ignorant or stupid. Here's the idea. If you're ignorant, you simply do not know. Okay, you don't know. You don't have the information. So that's one thing. We all come to the world, if you will, somewhat ignorant of life. That's just what happens. We come here because we have to learn. So ignorant can be unlearned. And even stupid is not the same thing as fool. Stupid has to do with the fact that it comes from the same word as stupor, which means that something has happened to you so that you're not fully conscious. You might be moving, you might have gotten hit in the head and you're moving a little slow. So again, stupid is not the same thing as foolish. Notice that the definition was to act imprudently or unwisely. So we got to go for what is wisdom? Well, okay, wisdom is taking the knowledge that is available and using it in the best way. So if you are acting imprudently or unwisely, it's not that you don't know, and it's not even that you're stupid. You are deciding to do something in light of this knowledge that is imprudent when prudence is a possibility and unwise when wisdom exists. It takes a little bit more doing to be a fool. Let me show you something. Let me show you something about this, since we're going to be discussing Christianity as well. This is how the Bible describes a fool. Let me show you something. You'll find this highly interesting. This is how the Bible describes a fool in the way that we've talked about. It's not just that there's not knowledge that is not available, and God repeats himself on this. Here you go. Share screen. And hold on a second. A little bit of technical A little bit of technical. Hold on, y'all. Here we go. The Bible repeats itself on this subject because it's that important. Psalm 14:1 and Psalm 53:1. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. And the following is that after having said that, they are corrupt, they have done abominable works, there is none that doeth good. If you didn't get it from Psalm 14:1, you'll get it from Psalm 53:1. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Corrupt are they and have done abominable iniquity. There is none that doeth good. Now, understand that God was not talking about the atheist as we think about it today. The Bible was written out of a world where everybody knew there was some kind of God. You're not that far from the creation of the world, and by this time there are many different cultures with many different views on who God was or what gods there were. So there is no possible way that you could be walking the earth in ancient Israel and not know there was a God just by virtue of your own country's history. How Egypt was the mightiest nation on earth in the time of the Exodus. It would take divine intervention to get away. And every Hebrew had the part of the Bible up to the Psalms. So it's not like there was not evidence that there was a God. But notice what the fool is desiring to do. Now that he has declared that there is no one for him to be accountable to, now he can become corrupt. Now he can do abominable or evil works. And now, because this foolishness is now abroad in the land, there is none that doeth good. Again, today we're going to define terms. Because when we come down to the United States of America, there is a group of men in the United States of America that for all intents and purposes have declared that there is no God above them. This goes back away. This goes back all the way to 1638. It wasn't done here. Well, they decided to make Jesus over in their image so that they could justify conquering all of the rest of the earth. So, in making the image of Jesus, God in 1638, a white man, they made sure that there would be no way, excuse me, might be declining this call, thank you. There would be no way for anyone to be God above them. So, for all intents and purposes, they declared there was no God because they got to be in charge. If you go back to the founding of the United States of America, we want to talk about a Christian nation. No, most people were deists. Evidence on George Washington suggests he went to church, but he was closer to being a Mason. There is very little evidence of Christian behavior in his life if you examine it closely. He did acknowledge a God. But the Masons will tell you, once you become 33rd degree or above, it doesn't matter who you worship as long as you worship the chief God. That would be Lucifer. Go study it. The Truth About the Masons. I believe the author is Robert Morey. Go read it. It'll tell you a lot. A lot of the other people up here were deists. They were deists who founded the country. They believed God made the earth and then abandoned it. And then, of course, they had been left in charge. Thomas Jefferson, this is a man who had a Bible and edited it to leave Jesus in the grave. Today, as I'm recording this, this is Good Friday. So imagine this. You're going back to a Christian nation where one of its founders has decided to be such a fool that he thinks that by editing the Bible to remove the miracles of Jesus and leaving Jesus in the grave, that he can deny Jesus his privilege of being God, and again, put these white men doing this American experiment in their place. Again, we return to the definition. It's not that the fool is ignorant. It's not that the fool doesn't know better. He's not stupid either. He's not held back in any way. This is a person in the presence of wisdom and prudence decides to act unwisely, a silly person. Well, let's talk about the foolishness in the room. Actually, there's several versions of it, but let's talk about racism for just a moment. To understand the background of black and white and red all over, it's obviously a story about black people and white people in a place called Lofton County, and the red is going to be all over as there is a clash over the same old issues that the clash has been around in Virginia for the last 400 years, ever since the first slave ship was sent in in 1619. The foolishness of the day at that time was that same foolishness the Greek and Romans believed, that they were the only real human beings and everyone else was a barbarian. Some of the Christian foolishness that we talk about is that we have this idea of a Christian Europe. No, go read your European history. Europeans, higher level Europeans, embraced the Renaissance. And if you look at the Gothic cathedrals and the big Catholic cathedrals, you will see the meshing of Greco-Roman belief and making saints of Greco-Roman figures who, of course, lived before Christ and never knew him, with the saints of Christianity. So they're practicing an amalgam religion. They're putting things together that really do not match in order so they can have their Greco-Roman cake and eat it too with their Christendom. Well, what this essentially does is you create something that is not Christianity. This is one of the reasons I'm going to put this out on Monday instead of Easter. When you get your Easter bunnies and all the rest, that's European paganism hangover. That's a fertility symbol. But the foolishness goes with as follows. So you're going to mix these two things. And then you're going to go out and conquer the world and say that Jesus is giving you permission to do this. And even name one of the first ships to go to Africa, the good ship Jesus, to become a slave ship. The foolishness is, folks today have forgotten, we can all read. You know how Pope Alexander VI in 1444 made up the curse of Ham out of whole cloth to enslave African people? Again, it's not because he was ignorant. It's not because he was in a stupor. He knew better and made it up. Go read Genesis 9 for yourself. There is no curse on Ham, nor was there ever a curse on Ham. Ever. Ever. The curse that Noah pronounced on was one grandson. And if you read through the record, you will see that the children of Ham became the founders of all civilization. Civilization began with Hamites, also known as Africans. All you have to do is go read Genesis 9. There never was a curse on Ham. So anybody that could read and had actually read their Bible would have been a fool. But see, now you understand why the Episcopal method, and I'm not talking about the Episcopal Church, I'm talking about any kind of church that wants to keep the Bible away from the people. But at that time, you had the Catholic or the Anglican Church, who at that time did not want the Bible translated into English and kept the copies chained to the pulpit so that the people could be kept in spiritual slavery. But the people who made these rules were neither ignorant nor stupid. They were fools in high places in the true sense of the word. And let's keep going. So we covered the curse of Ham. Well, all right. So United States, only counting white people, was 60% illiterate at the time of the founding. So a lot of people have not read it completely. They're going with their books of common prayer or whatever it was the Catholic or Anglican Church, mostly Anglican in the United States, that became Episcopalian gave them. And of course, they were not about to cover this because if you do your mathematics, most of your Episcopalians, high church Episcopalians, most slave owners were high church Episcopalians. There is one major exception. Robert E. Lee was a low church Episcopalian. And because he was in an Episcopal version that was closer to the common people, that actually helped him find his way. It took him 60 years, but it helped him find his way out of being overly stuck. Of course, having to go by Appomattox and losing everything he owned didn't hurt him, but it gave him a place to come down from the level of having a religion that lets you be God. But here's the deal. So let's go, okay, maybe through 1900, most people couldn't go. But then you also have people like Charles Darwin who come up with the lie in the face of abundant evidence that Black people somehow were descended from superior white people and that we were the degradation of the race. Well, okay, well, we're going to go back to the Bible for a minute. Check this out, y'all. I want you to see something, and I want you to think carefully about what you see, okay? I want you to see something. Okay, we know in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and we see this, and we go on down, and we've got the creation of the entire universe. And at this time, we also have God making man. And if you stop in chapter 1, you don't see how he made man. Stay with me here. Stay with me. We're going to chapter 2. Okay, so we have the making of man. And here's what I want you to see. Genesis 2:7. And God formed man and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. Now in Genesis 1, we know God made man in his image. That's number chapter 1. In chapter 2, we find out he was made from the dust of the ground. Let me ask you a question. How much white dirt have you ever seen, or even pale pink? I'll wait. God made man in his image out of the ground. Go out wherever you are sitting, and if you're not sure what color original man was, go look at the dust of the ground where you live. So where did all other colors derive from? It derived from dark-skinned man, not the other way around. And of course, Darwin's science held on until we actually looked at the human genome, whereby we were able to determine that the human genome through our DNA says that all mankind derives from Africa, not the other way around. Europeans and Asians are not a higher step than the African in human history. The European and the Asian are derived from Africa. Now, does that change your knowledge on who is original and who is derivative and even who is superior and who might be inferior? Of course, now the Bible doesn't teach the superiority of anybody in the human race because God has locked down the human race to Romans 3:23. So don't go feeling yourself because look, doesn't matter. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. We are all flawed human beings. So there's no reason to play the games. But I had to go through that for us to define terms because we are now 20% of the way into the 21st century. Every justification for racism in the last 500 years has been debunked. It has been debunked in science. It has been debunked through scripture. So every justification except for sheer human foolishness in the face of knowledge, in the face of wisdom, in the face of prudence, every possible justification has been debunked. All humans are human. All humans are human. Every possible way to debunk that has been put away, but there are still people who are devoted to wanting there to be no God so that they are accountable to no one and wanting other humans to be nothing but their chattel so they can pretend to be God and do abominable works. And when we talk about fools and foolish variations of Christianity in America, that's what we're going to be talking about. I don't have a reading today, but we need to define terms. Don't forget about Jefferson. Well, we haven't talked about him yet. Don't forget, we've got some names in here that relate to names of people that we know. We'll talk about the foolishness of heritage. Why can't we get this stuff stopped? Because there are enough people still passing down the foolishness to people who should know better. There is no excuse for anyone who wants to be a racist in the 21st century. There's no justification remaining. It flies in the face of all evidence. I mean, according to secular science, guess what? Let me just add one more thing. If you are an atheist or you're a secular person, hey, your science says, even in the story of evolution, Africans are Homo sapiens sapiens. Neanderthal genes, cavemen, Europe. So again, secular science says that Black people are more human than Europeans. Africans are more human than Europeans, just by the genetic code. If you want to hang on to that, that's your consequences. Be easier to be a Christian, at least be on the same level. And I'll shout out to our Muslim brothers, same thing. After the flesh, there are a lot of Black people who are Muslim and even Black Muslim and even in Islam in Africa. And our brothers after the flesh in Africa, even then, you're not going to have these divisions. But no matter how you cut this, the humanity of humans cannot be denied. And if you insist on being imprudent, unwise, and silly, and insisting on it, you're a fool. It's April the 2nd, Good Friday. It's not too late for you to enjoy your national holiday. If you are a racist, you are a fool by definition. And as such, you may expect to meet your analogs in this book. You don't have to stay that way. I've given you plenty of evidence to begin getting over that section in your life. If Robert E. Lee could do it, so can you. Trust me. If he can, y'all be all right. Okay. But for everybody else, if this offends you, I'm sorry, but not sorry. Somebody had to tell you. And then, second of all, for everybody else, we'll be back with another reading. Probably this is going to go up on Monday, the 5th, is when you may expect to see this. And also, don't forget, I'll be appearing April 12th with the Author's Corner, H.T. Campbell, and he'll be doing a review of this book by April the 30th, so that'll be coming up on the 12th. I'll be promoting it and mentioning it every day that we appear. I expect to do, this is the first show of next week, I expect to do at least 2 more. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are my target days. We'll see what happens, life and stuff. But enjoy your day. If you are a Christian and you are commemorating Good Friday, well, by the time you see this, it'll be Monday. So I hope you enjoyed your Good Friday and your Easter. And I'll catch you next time. Bye.